Okay, so it's me again. We're in the next stage now with the battery box. So as you can see, the BCDC has been fitted to the top of the battery box. It's all been wired up to the crank battery now. So all that is like most battery systems. So 6 BNS dual cable running up to the crank battery. That's fused at the other end with the MIDI fuse. Basically similar to that fuse there. That's a 40 amp one. In the system is a 60 amp fuse up at the crank battery, obviously running down along the chassis rail into the cabin, and then that plugs in by Anderson plug to the back of the battery box. So it's all been wired in by the Sparky today. He's put in an extra Anderson plug at the rear. That'll be for the solar panel, which then obviously runs unregulated into the BCDC, which is an MPPT solar regulator itself. Obviously it takes 12 volt from the crank battery and then takes a solar charge as well. If you want to put a solar panel on the roof, you can do that, and the BCDC will choose whichever one is best. This particular model is the new BCDC 1225D. And it will choose green power over the crank battery power if you have a solar panel on the roof. I'm going to keep mine folding panels 180 watt set mobile, and obviously I've bypassed the regulator on the back of the solar panel because this now becomes my new regulator. So inside, as you can see, it's quite busy in there now that the BCDC is wired in. Again, another 60 amp fuse there, which is connected to the brown wire, which is basically becomes your positive onto your battery. That's pretty much it, because luckily I've got an older model car. This is a 2005 Hilux, so it doesn't have the new what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have the new alternator. Alright, so basically because I don't have a new low voltage alternator, I don't have to connect all these other wires. Alright, I have the blue, the orange and the green there. Alright, also I'm just going to use a standard AGM battery, so I don't have to utilise that. If you want to put the new BCDC there, we'll also charge your new lithium batteries, and that's when you're going to have to use the orange wire as well. The blue wire again is for low voltage alternators, right, and that blue wire would have to run all the way from here back to your ignition. So by using an AGM battery, it makes things very simple. You only have to run the negative and positive of the BCDC, which goes to the crank battery, and in this case all I need to do is use the brown wire, which becomes onto the positive terminal of the battery. The yellow wire is for your solar, and that simply goes to your solar panels, and then you just run another negative battery wire, your negative earth, which then runs back to, in this case I've run dual wiring. Alright, so that simply just runs back to the common earth, which is underneath the bonnet. So it saves you having to use the old dodgy chassis earth. Alright, so it's always better if you can to run dual core. I know it's easier just to run the positive, and you can do that, but it just means that you're going to have to then earth that off the chassis somewhere, and sometimes those chassis earth can cause you a little bit of drama. So that's it there, all set up, and obviously I've got the Anderson plug on the front here, which then I plug the fridge into. That's about it. I've already pretty much run through the battery box. So you know, it has all the normal connectors, 2 12 volt cigarette plugs, a Merit plug. Some people like to use them on their fridges. Obviously you can't beat the Anderson plug for a good connection, and one that's not going to work itself loose, but probably the next stage down is probably the Merit plugs is going to give you a good fridge connection. On the other side is a USB for your laptops and your phone, and the other one is a 12 volt monitor, right, and which has its own switch, so you don't have to run it all the time, even though it doesn't use very little power, but you can switch that off whenever you like. So that's it, the dual battery system's in. Wait for the tax check now to sort it out with AGM battery. I've chosen a full river battery and 120 amp hours, and that'll fit in the box there, no worries at all. Just on the sides, just the anchor points. Yep, a few people might have a bit of a laugh, I suppose. I'm a big fan of over engineering, but it's quite easy just to undo that, pull the hooks at the bottom, and then obviously you can take the battery box out and keep it mobile. And obviously the Sparky's left me with a fair bit to play with, so if I really want to move it around inside the cabin here, it's not going to be a problem either. Thanks very much. I hope that helps some people. Anyway, cheers, bye.